All right, listen, Zaveda, right? This is what we're not. This is something we're not. I'm not gonna let that stand. You see that stupid comment you just made in the chat? Yeah, it's an E that thing. Let me tell you why. For you to say something as silly as voodoo has been used to do evil things, right? The immediate retort, as I'm sure you know, will be, so has Islam, right? Islam has been and is being used to justify madness in the globe today, right? So for you to then respond to me with, nah, Islam's peace and only used as defense and justice, I would ask you to, because you know I like you, and like some people just don't like you for some reason, but I'm not one of them. But I would ask you to please get your head out of your proverbial ass, not your actual ass, because that's rude. Like, it's just a saying. Like, you need to take your head out of the fundament and then come back to reality. Because I think it's incredibly irresponsible of you to say something so silly as Islam is only peace and only defense, when we know that it's being used now, whether you call it a misinterpretation or whatever, to justify madness now.
But to be honest, Ultra Funky, I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to cut you. That's not the point that I'm making here.
You never have to apologize.
I don't know why. You know, I'm very much focusing on the topic and the conversation about African spirituality and African rituals. It's got nothing to do with Islam. Yeah, for some reason, people definitely do like to divert back to Islam. It's a very trendy thing to do. But the reason why I highlighted that comment and I said voodoo, because they were speaking about voodoo. Yeah, because there are elements of African spirituality which I could say are possibly positive when it comes to, you know, dealing with nature and dealing with the herbs in order to cure yourself and stuff like that. I can respect that part. But there's also a dark side to it. And I'm trying to highlight that dark side in order to be balanced. And what I'm saying is with voodoo, yes, from my understanding, it has been used to do evil things. I.e., you know, we as Muslims are very aware of what we would call magic, yeah, and a spiritual world and spiritual entities. That's why we are told to stay clear, because these spiritual entities are very powerful. And if you was to conjure the wrong one, then there will be a very big problem. What I find people that
just pause. Wait. Yeah. Just because I've got a memory of a goldfish and I might forget the point, right? As an atheist, personally, I just reject magic outright, right? But I will concede that I've seen things online that actually I could say I do agree with your initial point, right? But the point has to remain. Like there's no religious idea or ideology is free from fuckery. You see what I'm saying?
I'm not saying that though.
Wait, hold on. I think what we should do is, since we've got an African spiritualist on the panel, we should address the question to them rather than voodoo's evil.
No, but you haven't even allowed me to do that, Ultra Funky. This is why I'm here. This is why I've been waiting in the back chat for quite some time.
I always allow you. In fact, I make a point to allow you your time and space.
Okay, so can I finish the reason why I highlighted?
But I'm not one of them.
Yeah. Pardon me. The reason why I highlighted the negative effects of voodoo is because I've heard Shakara speak, and when I was promoting the positives of Islam and the beauty of Islam and how it was spread, he managed to make sure that he would add in the fact that there are certain cases where it was forced and it wasn't so nice and pretty. And fair enough, I respect that. So I also want to highlight to him as well that there are certain African spiritualist practices which have been used to do evil acts. Yeah, and I don't know how he's trying, if he's trying to promote that or he condemns that, and then we can go specifically to voodoo. Yeah, where from my understanding, it has been used to do evil things like splitting up people's marriages. You know, the thing with the voodoo dolls as well.
That's the thing, Zaveda. That's all right. Shakira, I'm just gonna. I have to put this out there, like right off the bat. Yeah, you see that magic voodoo shit with the dolls and you prick it and all this stupid shit. I have to. I can't lie. It's fucking ridiculous. It's insane nonsense. Magic is bullshit. And anyone that believes that stuff is a fucking child, in my subjective opinion. Now, hold on a second. Wait, listen to what I'm saying. I think.
But you didn't even let me finish, Ultra Funky. But go ahead anyway. No problem.
Oh no, sorry. No, let me apologize again to you, my Muslim sister, and please accept my apologies.
Ultra. I just want to get my point, because sometimes, you know, I'm very like finish on a cliffhanger type topic sort of thing. Yeah. So what I'm saying is, yeah, from my understanding, you know, I've known some Africans as well who also do use juju, and the fact that the ritual contains conjuring up very powerful spirits who have certain powers, it has been used to do evil. And for instance, like I said with the juju, there's a lot of men that use juju, you know, in order to get money, in order to get fame, you know, practically basically selling their soul, right, to use these spirits to work for them. You know, like I said, voodoo has been used to split up people's marriages, to jealousy, because you're dealing with very, very powerful entities. And this is why we are told to stay away from these powerful entities, because these powerful entities can take advantage of you, as we have seen when I was watching a documentary in Haiti, when they were trying to conjure up a specific spirit, right? And what they would do is they would drink alcohol, they would use incest, they would dance very provocatively.
Wait. Did you say they use? Wait, it's a bit. Sorry, my reception's a bit shitty. Did you say that in the process of this ritual, they ingest intoxicants and mind-altering substances?
Yes, they would drink rum.
Carry on. Yeah. No, carry on.
They would drink rum, and I'm not sure if they smoke drugs, but they smoke something, a specific cigarette or herb or something like that. And like I said, this spirit would completely take advantage of them in a sense where it will control everything within their bodies. So they start, you know, dancing and doing specific movements and stuff. And, you know, so I just want to know, from Shakara's point of view, you spoke about the positive aspects of African spirituality, you know, identifying yourself as an African and staying in tune with your culture. But are you also going to highlight the negatives of these African?
Yes, African he will. Rituals? Wait, he will. He'll do that in a minute, yeah. But what I have to chime in with my perspective now, Zabeda. The problem that I have with what you just said is that you're presupposing that magic, like Santa Claus, is real. And Zabeda, I have to break this to you, and I know what your religion tells you, but there's no such thing. There's no such thing. And I think the reason why I interrupted and said, oh, you know, like in this ritual that you mentioned, you saw them with your own eyes intake mind-altering substances, right? That was the key. That was the key component there, Zabeda.
But to them it's not, though. To them it's not. To them it's a gateway. When they're drinking alcohol, they're opening the gateway for the spirit to enter, because now their mind is in a different dimension. That's what alcohol does to you.
All right, so what happens when I use an alcohol wipe on my steering wheel? Hold on a second.
Brother, when you're drunk, you do things. When you're drunk, you do things.
When I use an alcohol wipe,
when you're drunk, you do
alcohol on my steering wheel, what then?
Ultra, when you're drunk, don't lie. You do things and you act a certain way which you wouldn't usually do if you were completely in your right mind frame. Alcohol, that's why it's called a spirit, because because it actually has effects on the brain and the function.
Zabeda, I'm the same. When I'm drunk, I am the same. I'm just like more.
Okay, have you ever been drunk? Okay, Ultra, have you ever been drunk that you forgot what you've done the night before? Don't lie.
No, not forgot what I'd done the night before, but I've been really sick. Like,
but come on, you've never been drunk that you don't remember what you did. Someone said, yeah, remember Ultra was doing that? You're like, what? I did that?
No, I've never been that drunk.
Well, at least you're drinking responsibly. At least you're drinking responsibly. I'll give you that then. That's a good thing.
That's what I do. I do everything responsible. And Zabeda, I'm telling you, babe, and I need you to take like 4 deep breaths, like inhale through your nose and breathe out your mouth, right? Because I'm going to tell you something, and it's going to be very difficult for you. Whose fucking fire alarm is that? Anyway, listen, forget that. So, I'm going to tell you something right now, right? And it's going to blow your wig, right? Check this out, Zabeda. Mm-hmm. Believe it or not, and I know what you've been told, I know what you've been conditioned into, but magic isn't real. Now, don't respond. Just take a minute and just imagine the possibility that I'm right. But don't respond. Just wait. Hold on.
I'm quiet.
let it just wash over you.
I'm
Just
gonna
think
respond
about.
to you though.
No, I want you to, but before you respond, I need you to just fathom for a minute that magic ain't real. And then if you understand the implications of this, it will just make your life better. I promise.
Okay, let me say to you now.
All right, go on.
There is very much a spiritual dimension. There are spiritual entities which we can come in contact if we summon them. Yeah, you can believe it, you don't want to believe it, whatever. Yeah, even the Christians and the Hebrews, they all recognize that magic is real. Yeah, and it has been brought down. You know, we can go back to the story of King Solomon during his time, where it was brought down to them, but it was brought down as a test. Yeah, this thing is powerful, but don't use it. And what we would call that is almost hidden knowledge. Yeah, some people have knowledge and they use it in a positive manner. They use it to enlighten and inspire people. Some people use knowledge in order to manipulate and corrupt people. And this is what magic is. This is why we are told to stay away from it. Yeah, because this power could be too much for one to handle, to the point where somebody will grow arrogant and greedy with this power and end up doing some mad fuckeries with it. And that is the case. That is what has happened. Yeah,
Zaveda,
we can see that in the music industry.
I've got to drive. Yeah. Zaveda, yes. sorry, babe. I've got to drive. I'm at work still. Yeah. Just take this in for a second. Yeah, I feel like, if I'm honest with you, like when I asked you to just put yourself in the mindset that magic doesn't exist, I felt like it was difficult for you and you probably didn't do it. The reason being is because if I make up some fucking stupid shit and say, listen, people, I'm the most powerful, most spiritual man in this village, or whatever the fuck, and if you adhere to X, Y, and Z, you're gonna make your life better. However, if you step outside of these things, terrible things will happen to you. And then you think, shit. And then you get out and then you fucking buck your toe on a stone and you're going to be like, wait, whoa, hang on a second. You see what I'm saying? Zabeda, listen to me. It's all in the mind. Magic, I promise you, Zabeda, there's no fucking magic spell or conjuring up that can get some fucking spirit or some cosmic fuckery. It's just, I can't stress this enough, right? It's madness.
I mean, that's your opinion, Ultra. I know
no, but Zabeda, I'll tell you what you do. I'm gonna Zabeda, listen. I'm gonna link you in what's just up past Marble Arch, Edgware Road. Yeah, I'm gonna buy you and Waleed a big meal. Now, as soon as we finish eating and our tummies are full and we've had some tea, and I want you to conjure up a jinn. Yeah,
no, because I wouldn't do that, Akhi. It's against my religion. I can't conjure up no jinn. That's not me. That's why I'm asking. You might as well ask Shakara, these people, because that's what they deal with. You tell them to prove it. Even this guy, sorry, I don't know his name, Mordecai. Mordecai. He was saying, yeah. No, hold on. He was saying, yeah. That
go.
Okay.
Yeah, still, I don't mind conjuring up some Shango and some ancestors and all these things. We can do that still, you know what I mean? Yeah, all the spirit them can come, goes about the place. So yeah, we've got to the point whereby we speak of voodoo, okay? And I do want to make the point that I've had very few occasions to converse with Zabeda, and we've never discussed religion. I've never had a conversation with her where I'm discussing Islam. So I do want to make that point. However, when it comes to voodoo, it's necessary to not begin the conversation with ritual, as you wouldn't do with any quote unquote religion that is considered, you know, worthy of respect. You know what I'm saying? Like you start by giving an explanation of the basic concepts within the spiritual system. And what it is, what happens is that because of the demonization of voodoo. But by the way, one of the reasons why I speak about voodoo, you know, is not because I am abundantly washed in voodoo ritual and the voodoo community, because there isn't a significant voodoo community in this country. But when referring to African spirituality, I understand very well that there are two terminologies through which African spirituality has been demonized more than any. And those two terms are voodoo and obia. Yeah. And so I will use these terminologies because people understand what it is I'm talking about. Once I restore dignity and respect to those two traditions, then the rest of African spirituality will come along with it. And so when we're dealing with voodoo, yeah, we have to start by talking about the basic concepts in voodoo. First and foremost, the term voodoo comes from a fun word, which is voodoo, yeah, which translates loosely as spirit, yeah. And so as when I was asked,
This comes from India.
say that again.
Does that not come from India?
No. So when I was asked earlier about my concept of the creator, and I spoke about basically the creator being the essence of the life force, yeah, and consciousness in that regard. Voodoo just meaning spirit, yeah, or the essence, the basic essence of life or spirit, is an example of that. Okay, the term voodoo also is an expression of ourselves as an expression of that spirit, our closeness to that spirit, and within the voodoo tradition. There are various different terms and words that relate to the supreme creator, as in the all-encompassing supreme creator. Originally, in West Africa, among the Fon people, the Ewe people, and a number of other groups who share cultural, similarity with the Fon. The term is variously Maulisa Sebo, yeah, and how that has been translated to me in the past is that Mawu is the feminine aspect of the creator. Lisa is the masculine aspect of the creator, and Sebo is the unseen. Yeah.
But can I just say one? Can I just cut you just 1 second, please? Yeah.
I would like to finish saying what I'm saying.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. Then you can come in, because it's necessary that we begin by talking about voodoo from its basic concepts, yeah. And so this needs to be explained. As that concept develops in Haiti with the African ancestors in Haiti, and the supreme deity becomes Bonje, yeah, Bonje. Okay, then now you have
Bonje, they talking.
Yeah, right, and all them something there, yeah, right. Then now you have the divinities, yeah, which are referred to mostly as lower, yeah. You know what I'm saying? And the lower are the divinities, the forces of nature, okay, and they are variously expressed. So the names in West Africa are not necessarily the names in the Caribbean or the Americas, and there's a lot of crossover with the Ifa tradition on the continent as well as in the diaspora. Yeah, so I'm a little bit more familiar with the West African names from a scholastic point of view, although I have more direct experience with Haiti voodoo. However, the basic ones, yeah, that we refer to are Papa Legba, yeah, which is basically the same as Eshu in the Ifa, who is referred to as the keeper of, or the guardian of the crossroads. The Legba is the principle that represents the connection between the material and the immaterial planes of existence, the physical world and the spirit world. Yeah. Then you have Age. Yeah. Age is likened to Ogun. And then there is an actual composite version of him in Haiti. He is Ogu, yeah. But in West Africa, among the Fon people, he is Age, who is the divinity associated with iron and war. As sorry, I'm saying this wrong. Age is forests, yeah. Gu is Ogu, yeah. Age is the deity of forestry and land and all them something there. All right. Fertility of soil, agriculture, and I'm saying all them movements there. Yeah. And then there is Go, who is iron and war, who is likened to Ogun. And then there is Zevioso. Zevioso is the equivalent of Shango. Yeah, that's fire, thunder, and other principles that are associated with those things. I'm just giving you the nature-based ones, but there are also principles of human endeavor, like Legba is like trial and tribulation, learning lessons. Zevioso is like justice and them kind of things there.
Yeah.
Who have I not got? Agbe, yeah, which is the Orisha, so not the Orisha, the lower or divinity of water, seas, rivers, and them kind of things there, yeah. So those are the basic ones. If I haven't missed any out, all right. And then there's a spiritual order that comes from that. The priests are called Mambo in Haiti, and the priestesses are called Mambo, and the priests are called Hungan. And the various rituals will be done in relation to the lower and their different nature principles, and they're also their principles of human character development as well. And so it's necessary to explain these things before we start going into for us like that. So yeah.
Yes. Well, yeah. Okay. So these concepts that you're speaking about, I don't think they are indigenous to Africa, because they sound very much like the spiritual system that was in Greek, that was in Rome, that was in ancient Babylon, in India. So, you know, the concept is really what I understand, you know, from the higher entities, is like a family, yeah, who obviously have, you know, you got the mother god, the father god, the son god, the daughter god, and the extended family. And then you go to the principles, you know, of you know, love or hatred, or just like he was explaining. And we as Muslims are very aware of these practices, but we have been warned against these practices because obviously, and no disrespect, I'm just going to be, because I have to be true to my core. What you're explaining to me from an Islamic perspective, we would call that jinns. Yeah, we would call all these entities that you are speaking to or dealing with, sorry, as jinns who come and you know, manipulate mankind to think that they are higher beings because of their power. We acknowledge jinns have power. They can do things that maybe in voodoo tradition, you know, when you use these powers to do certain things, and they happen, you know, I want this marriage to split up, and that entity has caused that power to split up, because I'm sure that's happened. I'm sure people who have used voodoo who have a bad heart are going to use this voodoo because I want this marriage to split up, and they do the ritual and then the marriage splits up. So we know that the power of these jinns, we recognize jinns have immense power. They can shapeshift, they can travel through time, they can enter your body. You know, we know about these jinns, and that's what I feel like. Sorry, no disrespect again, but I feel like your African deities, we would call these people jinns, to be honest.
And I would say,
let me ask a question quickly. Let me ask a question real quick, man. Yeah, you've been holding it down all day today. Yeah, big up yourself. Yeah, big up Shaq. Big up,
I told you when it comes down to it, bro, I'm staying all day and taking all challenges. Yeah, so bring it up here. Come. Anybody want to come? But I do. Be quick, Carl. I do need to respond to this thing. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So what was it? I was gonna ask for any evidence of a repeatable test where someone can practice a fucking voodoo spell to break up someone's marriage, or get pregnant, or any of these other things what people say can happen by doing spells. Because I don't believe that at all.
Yeah, they use it in my country as well. They use it in Algeria and in Morocco. We call it sahar though. We don't call it voodoo. We call it sahar. And I was watching videos of where this magician priest who actually presented himself as the imam, and they went up in his house and they found, so the reason how they conduct their practices is they'll get a picture or a hair of somebody, or a piece of, you know, even their clothing. And what they would do is they would use women's period blood, basically. Sorry for the extreme. They would use that, and then they would use Quranic verses as well. And then they would write certain things but it's backwards. So you would need a mirror to actually read it properly. You would need a mirror and put it upon the writing so you can see it written properly. But they would write it in backwards, and they would usually bury these objects together. So the Quran, the menstrual blood, the picture of the individual, and then they would write the spell, what specific they want, and they would bury it in a grave, and that's where the jinn would take over and do what he needs to do. And the jinn will cut, and the way that they will split the marriage up is the jinn will cause he will manipulate the man to start hating his wife randomly. You know, he would come and seduce his body and make him, you know, not want to sleep with his wife, make him become detached from his wife, make him, you know, hate his wife and don't want to sit with her. And then that will cause the sort of tension between the marriage to the point where the wife either leaves or divorces him, you know? So this is how it goes in the Arab world, because it happens in the Arab world. I'm not saying we don't have.
And shout out to the Arabs, you know, them know them things.
You're saying it's good to break up marriages.
But the reality is that when it comes to how Muslims view African spiritual systems, they're entitled to view it however they want to view it. I have no interest in whether a Muslim wants to see Loa or Risha as jinn or not. That's up to them. Just don't come to me with that and then try to pose that interpretation on me.
Yeah, it's a jinn, though. It is a jinn.
And you're entitled to your designation. You know what I'm saying? You know, hold it. And if you, when you see a voodoo ritual, you're entitled.
But can I just say one point? Sorry, just one point. It's a very quick point. Yeah, it's a very quick point. Yeah, it's very quickly. Yeah, a jinn can be good and bad. By the way, can I just say that a jinn can be good and bad? So maybe the good jinns that you're conjuring up that are helping you, they might be good jinns, and then there's bad jinns that split up the marriages.
I'm going to finish. Yeah. Thank you very much. All right. So so you're entitled to designation. I'm not here to prove to Muslims that Loa and jinn are not the same thing. Yeah, they're entitled to do their own research where that is concerned and come to their own conclusions. The African spiritualist philosophy is not confined to the designations of Abrahamic traditions. Yeah, and so I'm not going to impose.
But the Abrahamic traditions confirms what you're dealing with. You already know what you're dealing with, but you've just twisted it and pretted it up. You're dealing with jinn. You know that. You don't know what your secrets are.
I'm not going to bow to that kind of designation. On the point of the traditions coming from India. So there's a book by the name of Foundations of African Thought, yeah, by a brother called Chukwunyere Kamalu, yeah, and I'm mentioning him now because I mentioned Diop before, but I'm showing a continuity of the development of the African-centered scholarship tradition in the sense of the fact that the classical civilization is considered to be the Nile Valley, yeah, not just Kemet, but the Nile Valley, and it is understood that from ancient times there was a trade relationship between the Africans traveled from the Nile Valley to India, and also there was a trade relationship between India and the Nile Valley, yeah, and China and all these things, East Africa. So the idea that we would have got it from India is really a colonial imposition in the sense of the fact that the idea is that Africans do not create, yeah, they only imitate, okay, but if you look at the spiritual system of the Nile Valley, which is personified in the Neteru, the Neteru system, you're going to find a lot of similarities here, whereby there is a name or names for the creator as manifested in his ultimate expression, and then there are names for the creator as manifested in different principles, yeah, within nature and principles within human cultivation. Okay, so there's that, and in relation to what is positive and negative, it is amazing to me that people don't seem to give African spiritual systems credit for the idea that we can also define positive and negative. The idea is that the people are unaware of the spiritual forces that they are quote unquote conjuring in that respect. And so I'm going to read from a book here called History of Religions in the Caribbean by a man by the name of Dale Bisnoth, yeah, and he breaks down some of the relationship between positive and negative, and then maybe afterwards I'll go into the demonization of African spirituality and why it is the case that when we speak of African spirituality, we can't conceptualize it outside of voodoo dolls and spells and putting hexes on people, because this is a racist colonial caricature that many of us still perpetuate. All right.
Excuse me, I don't know if you heard me in the beginning. I said there are certain positive things when it comes to dealing with nature and herbs. So please don't try and mischaracterize me.
Man, acknowledge that. What I'm saying is that the fact that the knee-jerk reaction to go to spells and hexes and so on and so forth. That is a colonial racist caricature. Yeah, right. So, right. It says, a significant change came over the role of the priest. Yes, so at the moment, he's just detailing the different ways in which African traditions preserve themselves, yeah, in the Americas despite persecution against the traditions, right? And so he's saying what he's making a point about the priest. A significant change came over the role of the priest. This is best illustrated by contrasting the Akan, or Comfort, which is priest, with Obiafo, which is wizard. Yeah, he translates it as wizard. I will translate it differently, but I get the point that he's making. Okay.
Wizard.
In West Africa, the priest mediated between the tribe and its gods. His role was a social one, and the worship services at which he officiated were public affairs. One of his functions was to challenge and condemn the operations of the Obiafo. The Obiafo, from whose name the work Obia is derived, was regarded as a disciple of Sasabonsam. Yeah. And my brother Dalian, who was on earlier, could translate that better than I can, but it relates to the term spirit, yeah, and malevolent spirit. Okay. Possessed of supernatural powers for a price. The Obiafo worked clandestinely at nights.
Wait, did he go back to that for a price? What price? What price? You said they have to do something for a price.
It doesn't say at the moment, but let me.
Does that mean sacrifice? Because I'm sure there's
sacrifice
that
here.
need to be made.
It doesn't say here, but let me finish. Thank you very much. Okay. The Obiafo worked clandestinely at nights. He was regarded as evil, and his functions were regarded as disruptive of the welfare of the tribe or village. People guarded themselves against the machinations of the Obiafo by wearing sunsam, amulets or charms, which were often provided by the Akomfo, plural, Akomfo. Sometimes the aid of the Bonsam, Comfort witch doctor, was enlisted to unearth the Obiafo and to render his work ineffective. The general disfavor with which the plantocracy in the Caribbean regarded slave religious practices and the official ban that was put on those practices is in some territories forced the Akomfo to perform his office clandestinely in much the same way that the Obiafo did in West Africa. That office was now performed on behalf of an amalgam of blacks that cut across tribal groupings, whilst intercession with the spirits for the prosperity of the slaves was not neglected. Many Alakomfo found that the welfare of his charges demanded that he sought to injure the whites who were responsible for keeping the slaves in bondage and for punishing them when they were not recalcitrant. Yeah. So the point, there's 2 points there, that within African spiritual systems, there are terminologies and punishments for misuse of spiritual power. There are priests who are dedicated to guarding against the misuse of spiritual power, and there is a context in which the use of spiritual power has become demonized, and that is because of the fact that the slave master feared it. And so the slave master characterized the thing in a particular way to give it negative connotations. And when it comes to the idea of witch doctors and putting things in people's food and splitting up marriages and so on and so forth, this is a colonial caricature, a racist colonial caricature promoted by European slave masters in order to demonize African spirituality. I say European. I should say European.
So you're saying that doesn't exist then?
I should say European and Arab slave masters in order to demonize African spirituality. And so today we reject those characterizations and we put it in its proper context. And so we don't conflate the Obiafo with the Akomfo and or vice versa, or we understand that both were conflated with each other in order to demonize the tradition.
Yo, Shats, let me ask a question.
Okay, can I respond now?
One second. Let me
Okay,
ask
go ahead.
a question here, because it sounded like, so you see with the systems you was talking about just then, can they be used like so was they able to be used to stop like the people being enslaved or anything like that? Could they use them? Because it seems like it doesn't actually really work, innit? Because obviously the people ended up being enslaved and the place is still colonized now.
Yeah, so we're talking about it's a good question, and I think we're getting to where James was trying to take us earlier, and I was gonna get back there, but I was gonna wait for James to get back because he sounded like he wanted to go down that road. Yeah. So I'm gonna say that there's a book by the name of Fighting the Slave Trade by Sylvia Adir, yeah, and she puts it that that the fight against the slavery actually saved millions of lives, yeah, and saved millions of people from being enslaved. Does that make sense? Yeah. So she posits the idea that the fight against slavery in general saved millions of lives and saved millions of people from being enslaved. Yeah. So you don't just judge it by how many people were actually enslaved. You have to also look at how many people were saved from being enslaved. It could have been worse if it wasn't for these factors, if that makes sense. Yeah.
But you see what? Alright, so you see the issue that I've got there now. Yeah, is like if it was used to not enslave as many people, or like to say not get as many people captured, couldn't it have not been used to just stop it in total?
Right. So nobody makes the argument that simply engaging in the African spiritual system would have stopped slavery. There's no player in that situation. That would be overstating the point. When we talk about return to African spirituality, that's a part of a decolonial process. So a part of the slavery experience of colonization was we were indoctrinated into systems of belief that were not our own. And as a result of believing those belief systems, we served the interests of the slave master. And that was already a fact on the continent before the Europeans came, if that makes sense. Yeah. Just what I'm saying. And so it's not the idea is if we were worshipping Olodumare, we would have had all the magic power to disregard slavery. That's foolishness. Yeah, that's foolishness.
So that's sort of what I wanted to try and get down the line of getting a clear, so a yes no, so you can close that off. Like
that's silly.
You know what it is actually. You got to think about it. When you're trying to say discuss it with say someone that believes in like Allah or Yahweh, obviously that the way that they see that is it can be anything, and it's all powerful and all knowing, isn't it? So as long as if Allah or Yahweh really wants to do something, it would get done.
I hear that. At the same time, they'd have a hard time proving that in relation to the fact that Allah or God or Yahweh was not able to stop slavery either. So I'm not in a.
You know what it is, Shaq, I only made that comparison, just to say that because you don't claim that Olodumare is the all-knowing perfect being and can do anything and everything at the same time. Do you get me? That's why I was trying to ask the first question in the first place, for you to say
point taken.
You can't use it to do that. Like
it's not that. The spiritual system is expressed through those who are devoted to it. Yeah. And so where a spiritual system is attacked, then it will impact upon the ability of that spiritual system to be used in defense of the people. But the fact of the matter is that African spirituality was used in defense of African people on the continent and throughout the diaspora. There's no doubt about that. You know what I'm saying? There's absolutely no doubt about that. In fact, when the Europeans are talking about the fact that when they got to Africa, they couldn't stand the climate. They couldn't stand the climate. They were dying very quickly. A lot of that work was actually herbalists and priests who were organizing secret societies in order to galvanize the forces of nature, literally against the intended enslaver. You understand what I'm saying, right? So
I hear you. You see when that's a bit spooky for me.
It can be, right? It can be. And I don't
you know why though? Do you know why? Yeah, because like again, that leads me back to the thing of right. If man was able to conjure up nature to start working against man, man should have definitely been able to make nature have enough strength to make man be able to keep what man was doing in the place where man was doing.
Right now, there's a few things.
That X-Men's name is Storm. That's Storm. Storm can do that. Besides that, no disrespect to the thing, but that's
let me explain though. Yeah, let me explain. The forces of nature could be the mosquito. Yeah, and so there are certain I've read of where priests, that they call, I believe that, what did the Ewe called the priests again? I'm forgetting what the Ewe called the priests, and it's not Boko, it's something else. But basically they galvanized the mosquito, against the enslavers, by using certain herbs and them kind of things there that would aggravate the mosquito in a certain kind of particular way, and placing the herbs in particular places. That's using the forces of nature.
Okay, can I ask a question, please?
So 1 second. So again, the claim is not, now bearing in mind that by the time this comes to be the case, right? Oftentimes Africans are not necessarily working on behalf of the entire African community. A lot of these traditionalists are already in a position whereby they're marginalized and being persecuted by foreign religions in the area at the time, right? What's it called? And also the fact that even outside of the foreign religion thing, there is a lot of division between African communities and different African nations. So whereby the wars between African nations were not, with the wars between African nations, we were not organized enough across so-called tribal groups and nations and empires to be able to protect ourselves collectively. We became a danger to each other in that kind of sense. Okay, I'm reading the chat. Sorry, I'm correct. The Ewe priests are called Boko. Yeah. And so there's that too. So, but again, nobody makes the claim that African spirituality has any supernatural magic power outside of the people them that are practicing it to be able to do anything. It's based upon that, like just as Dallin was saying earlier, there's individual and there's collective. Where there's collective, and I have seen like him, I've seen things that I wouldn't be able to necessarily explain in any kind of particular way, but it ain't got nothing to do with there's no abracadabra.
Is this a fair statement?
So how did
one second. I need to jump off. Is this a fair statement then? Yeah, that technology is stronger than spiritualism then?
No, I would say that there is a strike of balance where that is concerned, and I think that but the two are not separate and distinct from each other. So from an African spiritualist perspective, technology is not against technology. You see what I'm saying? But at the same time, just like the people in Haiti did, they didn't just do a voodoo ritual and leave it at that. They done a voodoo ritual and picked up the gun. Which is what I'm saying.
So this is what I'm trying to say, though. Why I'm trying to say, technology is stronger than spirituality, because ultimately, it wasn't just doing their thing, Bob. It was being able to use the advancements in technology in your favor to be able to free yourselves. Do you know what I'm saying?
There is no illusion in the African spiritual system about the idea that spiritual power alone is sufficient to win wars. It's a part of a process. It's a part of an entire social system of social organization. Again, there is not this alakazam abracadabra concept is European foolishness. That doesn't exist, right? Just I'm saying. Right?
Now, can I give you a question or two on that one? So are you saying that African that voodoo has no supernatural powers. It's only natural powers. That's what you're saying.
The idea of supernatural doesn't exist in the belief.
Okay, then spiritual powers. It's only natural powers. It's not spiritual anymore.
Spirit is a part of natural powers.
Shaka.
You know, I'll tell you what he means. Yeah, he means like, you see when, like you were saying, you see when you said they was using nature against each other. Yeah, but then you broke it down and saying they picked certain herbs and may have been feeding it to the invaders or leaving it in places where they sleep or whatever, so the mosquitoes go round to that spot or whatever.
There is
mosquitoes in those sort of spots. Yeah, but see
but
wait, hold on. Yeah, but he's asking you, is there anything like, you know, like a supernatural sort of thing where you can you see like what Zabina was talking about, how people want to go to practitioners to try and get babies or to break up with this one or have good luck with money or anything like that. Is there anything inside it like that?
Yeah, there are those things that happen to varying different degrees. My point is that the idea of spiritual power is not just about abracadabra alakazam. The idea is that there is energy in creation, and through ritual and through focus and meditation and contemplation, you are able to direct energy to suit a particular purpose. Yeah, and so Orisha, and so Orisha, or Loa would factor into that concept. When the people them are invoking Ogun and Azili, yeah, they are invoking a kind of a spirit and a consciousness to aid them in fighting a battle. There is no idea that they're just going to sit down and hum and chant and drum, and the spirit itself is going to go out there and fight the war for them. That's what happened. You know?
Can I ask my question now, please? I just had one question. Yeah. I was waiting, Ezra. All right, go on.
That was speaking. I'm just asking him a question now, innit? So like, what I'm saying is, so from what I got from that is that you're saying that there's no actual spiritual power. All the power that's in voodoo comes through like nature, physical things. There's no spiritual power in voodoo. It's all physical and natural.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that the material, so the immaterial in our plane of existence is manifested through the material. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So yes, it is believed that your through your intentions and your consciousness, you can direct energy for the purpose of achieving a particular goal. And to varying different degrees.
So when you're saying, when you gave the example of it, the bees and stuff, yeah, that was an example of something natural that people used in it. But now, when we're saying that
African spirituality is nature based.
What are you saying?
African spirituality is nature based. That's the point I'm making.
Yeah, I get that. But what I'm saying is also, now you're saying that basically, when you want to, there's also spiritual power behind it. So I'm not just talking about the physical.
No, I'm saying there's
always element where you put down the whatever and got the mosquitoes to bite. Yeah, that's the physical, the natural side. I'm saying now, is there also the spiritual powers that can do stuff to people? Like how you said, the chant and the drumming and certain rituals. Can you get spiritual power from them?
Yes, I'm saying that already, but I'm saying to you that there is no abracadabra alakazam. When a person, what they call it is being mounted, by Loa, or Orisha, and it's basically the spirit manifesting in a particular individual or particular individuals. Okay, and that spirit will communicate in particular kind of ways, but that spirit is considered to be a part of nature, not it's not considered to be supernatural in that respect. These are all forces within nature, as it is considered. Now, if we're taking it on a basic psychological level, you could just call it another state of consciousness.
Okay, then Shaka. So, for that one where we're talking about, so that's not just Subida's people that do that. That happens in Jamaica, Haiti, also, where people take the hairs or take pieces of gums, and do their thing. You get me? So, are you saying that's only like there's no actual supernatural spirit power in that, or is it just or natural?
No, the actual point I was making is that to the extent that these things are done within okay, can I make a quick point here? There is no indigenous African spiritual system called juju. Yeah. All right, that doesn't exist. There is no indigenous African spiritual system called juju. Juju is a terminology, right? 1 second. Yeah. Juju is a terminology that was used to demonize, that was developed to demonize African spiritual systems. Okay, and reduce it to practices like what we're talking about here. I'm saying that in the social order of the spiritual system, there are mechanisms for guarding against the misuse of spiritual power. That's the point I was making. So to the extent that whatever you are saying exists, there is a mechanism within the spiritual system to make it a taboo and to inflict punishment on people that use spiritual power in that kind of way.
Okay, can I ask my question, please? Wait, Ezra, give me a second. Give me 1 second, please. Yeah. I've heard of cases in Africa, so Liberia, for instance. There's a sect of people that practice cannibalism because they believe that the certain people that they are eating are cursed. In Tanzania, there is a sect of people who also kill albino children because they also believe that they are witches or that they are cursed and they're going to bring poverty to the family. There's also a case here in the UK where I actually volunteered to work at their foundation called the Victoria Klimbe Foundation, who was also killed, and she was from somewhere Sierra Leone, or no, I'm not sure exactly what country she's from, but she's from Africa. She was also killed by her family because she was believed to be a witch. Is this something to do with African spiritual practices in a sense where if somebody is believed to be cursed or an evil spirit has entered them, are they supposed to be killed or exiled, or is this just a cultural thing based on ignorant people, from your understanding?
It's neither. I would say that first of all, again, the things that you're bringing up are very popular colonial racist characterizations.
It's not colonial, bro. These are things that are these are Africans committing these acts. Please stop saying. This is what I don't like about you. Yeah, you love to always point the finger at colonials and white people, and you're refusing to take responsibility about what people from the diaspora are doing. Yeah, no white man told another man to go eat another man. No white man told another black person to kill his child because he believed it was a witch. This is something that's in-house.
There is a book on that deals, and I'm forgetting the name of this book. I don't own the book. I'm forgetting the name of it, but it deals with the fallacy of cannibalism in Africa, yeah, and the fact that this was a creation of the colonizer in order to justify the colonization process. Okay, and if I remember the name of the book, I will recite it for those who are in the chat who want to know. Yeah, but again, the putting forward caricatures of Africans as cannibals is very popular colonial and racist caricaturing. Yeah, so we have to bear this in mind. All right. I would ask you the articles that you've brought up, yeah, about these practices taking place. Do they name a spiritual system in any of the articles, or do they just use terms like witch doctor?
Sometimes witch doctors using it, but it's not a specific spiritual system.
Right.
No.
So, but also the people them that killed the witch, sorry, the girl who they call the witch, does it name the religion that the people that killed the girl come from?
To be honest, to be fair, I think they were Christian.
Okay.
I think
I would have thought so too. Yeah. And so when we get to that point, yeah, the person who was considered a witch. So if African spirituality deals
that's
with
not a Christian concept though, between people and witches.
One second, please. If African spirituality is about witch doctors, then African spiritualists wouldn't kill people for being witches. We are the witches. Yeah. If that is the case. Okay. All right. So the people that are killing people for being witches would, by definition, not be African spiritualists, yeah. And I figured that might be the case. So that's why I asked the question. All right. Now, where you don't see a specific spiritual system being named, you can glean from that this is not a practice that is being done as a part of a spiritual system, an African spiritualist system.
So where does it come from then? Where does it come from?
Well, I mean, there's any number of things. Brother Dali and Adolfo was on earlier. Sorry, I've already mentioned the fact that within the African spiritual understanding, there is an understanding of the fact that because spiritual power is spiritual power, it can be positively or negatively used, and there are guards against using it negatively. Yeah. So just like with any system, if you're a doctor, you learn how to heal and you also learn how to kill, and there are guards against using your knowledge of the body and biology to kill. Yeah, that happens. Okay, the fact of people, there are any number of cases of doctors misusing their profession, and it doesn't reflect negatively on the system or the institution, the medical institution in general. Yeah, and so that happens. But if you're not seeing a spiritual system being named, yeah, then why are we identifying it with spiritual systems? But the reason why that can be done is because when you use terms like witch doctor, the term witch doctor is already commensurate with the term African and African spirituality. That's the only reason. So all this lazy thinking that people do when they see witch doctor, and what the same witch doctor, if it's in another Abrahamic tradition, they call it a priest. Yeah, when you see when you see symbols, yeah, in other religions, they call it iconography and symbolism. When it's in African spirituality, they call it fetish. Yeah, and and then kind of things.
But can I just say something here? The issue I have,
when you see images, when you see divine images in other spiritual traditions, that's what you call, once again, iconography. When you see in the African spiritual system, it's idolatry. Yeah, this is the colonial narrative that we're trying to break free from. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So yeah.
Right. So the issue I have is when you don't want to take responsibility for things that are happening in-house, and it's always the colonials. Yeah. Remember, Africa wasn't always colonized, and these things still existed. Yeah. So when I'm talking about cannibalism happening in Liberia, right, it's a colonial mindset. When I'm speaking about albinos being killed in Tanzania simply for being albino, it's a colonial mindset. I'm not saying that colonization doesn't have an impact on the destabilization of Africa, but at the same time, there are a lot of things in-house, and that's why some things that you're saying is actually, for me personally, and I don't care what anybody says, yeah, because I say it with my chest, is actually detrimental to African people, because you're actually giving the power to outsiders and saying it's always we're the victims basically, and these people have had so much power that they've made us so weak, rather than saying actually we need to look at ourselves and stop these things. Always blame the next man. Tell me what colonial forces influence people in Liberia to go eat other people.
So the fact that I said that within African spiritual systems, it is understood that spiritual power can be used for negative, and so there are safeguards within the spiritual system to make such things taboo.
So now it's associated to African spiritualism. Yeah. So you're saying eating people is a negative part of African spiritualism. That's what you're saying now. But before it was a colonial thing.
And also the fact that there are social institutions that are geared towards that kind of thing, just like they would be in any system. Yeah. And so again, the idea of taking responsibility, I mean, and to be honest, I'm not really interested in whether you think I'm taking responsibility or not. So this ain't for you. It's just in general to emphasize the point that within African spiritual systems of accountability and responsibility on the individual level and the collective level are abundant. Yeah, are abundant, and it's probably the reason why no indigenous African spiritual system has wreaked havoc on the planet, in ways that other traditions have. At the same time, when it comes to the colonial process, and again, this is for those who are watching, it is necessary for us to appreciate and understand that even our African indigenous spiritual systems have been affected by the colonial process. And so we do need to do the work of purging ourselves of colonial indoctrination and impact in that regard. What's it called? So yeah, that is a reality, and be assured that we put no responsibility on anybody who's not African to do any of that work. That work is exclusively for African people to do in terms of purging ourselves and ridding ourselves of colonial impositions and colonial mentality. So no non-African need not feel burdened with the fact with the pressure of coming to tell African people what to do and how to do in that regard. It's not necessary. Trust me, the African spiritualist and the Pan-Africanist understands that that is our work to do. And all we ask for everybody else to do is to get out of the way and let us do our work.
Yeah. Yeah, but Velle, there's some people in the back chat. By the way, there's a lot of people in the back chat still.
There's a Hosea. I'm gonna read some words from the ancient wisdom of our ancestors while we're waiting for those people to come true. We're gonna invoke the spirit of our African ancestors. And
can I just say, I was the regime before we start.
The Orisha, you know what I'm saying?
Seek refuge.
Let us feast from the wellspring of our ancient ancestors. From the Nile Valley, yeah, and maybe later on, I'll give brothers and sisters a taste of the Oduifa in that regard. Give me a sec while I just locate. I know I'm gonna get the review. Don't worry, but the Orisha and the ancestors are sufficient, so we don't
La ilaha illallah.
You know.
La ilaha illallah.
No, it is no, but what it is that when you begin to talk about Neteru and Orisha, there are those who fear, and whereas I don't fear. I don't feel like
we don't fear. We only fear Allah the Almighty. Alhamdulillah. We only fear, but we seek refuge in need of evil forces that try to come our way.
Indeed, and you're entitled to do so. Here we go.
I don't know what your spirit might not like me. Your spirit might want to attack me, so I ask the Most High to protect me. I know.
But why do we listen? We don't care what certain girl think in it. Like, it's just that they're entitled to their opinion, so let them have their opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that deep. I'm voicing my opinion, same way you're voicing your opinion. You know. As long as you're content with what you believe in, then you don't have to feel what I'm saying.
Yes, again, and we don't. But today we're dealing with African spirituality, and so I figured it would be good to share some of the ancient text of the Nile Valley and how our people.
We're very aware of your African spiritual system. We've been told this in our book many times. We are very knowledge. And what you are dealing with, we stay away from it for our own good.
Yes.
We know about everything that you're dealing with. God has already said it in the scriptures. King Solomon has already told us. Yeah, our prophet already has been dealing with it before you was dealing with it.
Fine, and you're
entitled. But you're obviously using it in a different way.
And you're entitled to stay far. In fact, I encourage you to stay far.
You don't need to encourage me. I already do that. Alhamdulillah.
I encourage you to run, Gwe. Yeah, I encourage you. Yeah? I encourage you to stay very far.
Yo, listen. If I was to read a certain verse, yeah, I'm telling you, I've got certain Quranic verses. If you hear it, you will start having a panic attack. There's certain Quranic verses. If I read it to you, you will feel something. Trust me.
Well, you know what? Let's just tone it down a little bit, because the man wants to read some African spiritual things, and when you're reading source and ayahs from the Quran, everyone's quiet. Stop disrespecting our religion, man. Let the people speak, man. How can I have some manners? Like what the Prophet said.
Look how triggered they are. 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 Look how triggered they are.
And start saying your thing over it.
Why are you so triggered? Why are you so triggered?
Nah, man, you're rude though, man. You're rude, man.
Oh, I'm rude. Shut up, man.
All right, so let us feast from the wellspring, yeah, of our ancient Nile Valley. What's it called? Yeah, let us feast from the wellspring of our ancient Nile Valley wisdom in terms of the book of creations. Yeah, I'm reading from a compilation of texts from the Nile that is referred to as the Hosea. Yeah, and this is about creation at the moment. Okay, and it says it is Ptah, a form of Ra, the most great, yeah, who has given existence to all the divine powers and to their essences through his heart, mind, and tongue. Thus, it came to pass that the heart, mind, and tongue ruled all the other members through through teaching that Ra, Ptah, is within everybody as heart and mind, and within every mouth as tongue, of all the divine powers, of all humankind, of cattle, of all creeping things, and of all living things. And he thinks as heart and mind, and commands as tongue whatever he wishes. Ptah's, or Ra's, company of divine powers are before him as teeth and lips, and are the teeth and lips which establish the names of all things, and from which came forth Shu, the powers of light and air, and Tefnut, the power of moisture, and brought into being the company of divine powers themselves. The seeing of the eyes, the hearing of the ears, and the breathing of the nose are communicated to the heart and mind, and the heart and mind cause all perceptions to come forth. And what the heart and mind think and wish is declared by the tongue. So were all the divine powers created, and the company of divine powers completed. Indeed, every word of God came into being through that which the heart and the mind thought, and the tongue commanded. Thus, by means of the word, all faculties and qualities were fashioned and created, which furnish all food and yield all nourishment. And thus, justice is given to one who does what is loved, and punishment is given to one who does what is hated. Thus, also, if life given to the peaceful, and death given to the one who violates the law. And thus were made every work and all crafts, the actions of the arms and the hands, the motion of the legs, the movement of every member of the body, according to the command which is conceived by the heart and the mind, brought forth by the tongue, which creates the usefulness and action of everything. It is said of Ptah, Ra, then, he, she, is he, she, who made all and created the divine being. In he is the Taten, the risen land, who produced the divine powers, and from whom everything came forth, food and provisions, divine offerings, and every good thing. Thus it was recognized and understood that he, she, is the mightiest of all divine powers. And after he had created all things and all divine utterances, Ptah, Ra, was pleased and rested. Such is the wisdom of our great ancestors. In the Shona language, we refer to them as Muslim Mukuru. In the Ifa, the Yoruba tradition, we will say Egun Gun. Hail to the power of the word. Ashe, Ashe, Amen Ra.
Ashe, Ashe, brother, man. Yeah, give thanks for reading that out, man. And I'd urge my people not to try and listen to lazy stereotypes with African people with bones in their nose and they're dancing around chicken blood, because that's bullshit. That's just a white narrative, innit? That's been put out to fool people. Do you know what I mean?
We can't say it's bullshit, but I do hear you though. Like, we can't just judge the whole of Africa on that. You know, but we can't say that's bullshit. It is an African culture. You get me? Like,
yeah, but we're trying to contribute it to all the 53 places, and that can't work. You know what
the fact is, yeah, I'm gonna affirm though the fact that there are rituals that are done with chickens. That happens, and afterwards we name the chicken. just like there are rituals that are done with all kinds of meat. And when it's called kosher, and halal, everything bless.
I believe so. When Asian people and Pakistani men were killing their first daughter, I didn't contribute that to Islam. That's just barbaric pussy holes. Do you know what I'm saying? When they was doing the honor killings and all that. Do you know what I'm saying? I think that's a lazy stereotype to contribute negative things.
You're not sensitive. It's very clear you're sensitive.
We'll never talk, man. Fucking hell. You've been on there for hours, isn't it?
All right.
All I was saying is a lazy stereotype to fucking say God. Huh?
I said deep in the voice like me.
Yeah, because all Indian people used to kill their first daughter if they dated outside the race. That it's a contributor to Islam. That's lazy and dumb. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Or because one or two dickheads committed an atrocity, it's all down to all. That's just stupid thinking.
But
and
I never
racist
said
too.
that was the whole of Africa.
No, but
you're being sensitive. You're being sensitive.
Like that, though,
no, I didn't. If you were listening, if you were being sincere and listening, if it came across that way, it came across that way. But I was very specific in the location. I was very specific in the locations. Yeah, I said Iberia and Tanzania. I didn't say Africa. And I asked him, is this African spiritualism or just African culture? And he said neither. I asked questions. I did not assume, or say this is exactly what's happening. Yeah, I asked questions about specific cases based on specific locations. If that hurts your feelings, that hurts your feelings.
Not hurt my feelings, but obviously it's just lazy and dumb. It's just a stupid way to think.
I want to make the point that I don't run from African spiritual systems or cultures, wherever I regard to be positive or negative, or in need of correction. In any of them, as I said before, when different caricatures have been brought up, we're not ashamed of our people. All we seek to do is understand and evolve what is necessary and what is useful, because we are entitled to do so. I believe I kind of jumped in at the same time as M.A. Brown, so let me let him speak. Brother Mark.
Yo.
Yeah, so I believe I jumped in at the same time as you, so let me let you speak. Sorry.
Big up, brother. Big up, M.A.
Yeah, big up everybody. No, yeah, I don't necessarily have the worst opinion of the sister, but definitely it's clear what she's come on here to do. In the back chat, obviously, I made a comment that you've come here to impose your thing. That was clear when you're interrupting Brother Shakara while he's reading something out. That's quite disrespectful. It's not something.
Oh my God! Everyone has the best etiquette here when it comes to speaking.
Allow me to finish. Yeah. I don't know whether your ego at the moment is not allowing you to recognize that fact, but I think everyone would agree. If you were reading out something from the Quran or something that you regarded as a part of the tenets of your belief, your faith, then you would want us to respect that. So please show the same respect in return. It's interesting. One of the things that you said about questioning whether cannibalism or all them kind of things is part of the actual spiritual system. In fact, it wasn't a question; it was an assertion you made that you believed it was, right?
Facts.
In the same way.
No, I didn't, to be honest. But yeah, go ahead.
Allow me to finish. It's recorded. It's cool. In the same way that certain Muslims, as I said in the back chat, are blowing themselves up in the name of Islam, I'm sure you would be quick to say that that's not Islam, even though there are many instances of that happening. So I think to be fair, you should show the same powers of reasoning with all different types of things, not just your own, and be biased.
We can give expression to this as well.
Can I respond to him, please, because he was speaking to me. Yeah, like I said, I actually asked him specifically, about cases that I have seen in Africa, since just speaking about Africa, and I asked him, would you associate this with African spiritualism or African culture? And he said neither. Yeah, so I gave him the opportunity to enlighten me, because I'm just reading these cases. I don't know what they are associated to. All I know is that they are happening in Africa, and plus, from my understanding, when it comes to certain negative aspects of African spiritualism, sacrifices have to be made, blood is drawn, certain things are used to do negative things, i.e., split up marriages. And he actually praised the fact that when I mentioned that we have the same thing in the Arab world, where sihr, what we would call sihr, is being used to break up marriages, and where the Quran is actually people's period bloods are wiped from the Quran. He followed up by saying big up the Arabs for that. He said big up the Arabs for using period blood to swipe on the Quran. So if you're going to ask me for respect, you have to also ask the other person to respect me too.
No. I think it was. I don't think he was literally bigging Arabs up for that. I think it was.
You got that twisted.
It's very coincidence that he bigged up the Arabs after I said they were wiping blood on the Quran. You know.
Hold on. Just because you didn't understand the irony of the statement doesn't mean that you're right? As far as I'm concerned, it was highlighting. It's just holding up a mirror to your culture, innit? So the fact that you're swaying away from that, that's up to you, innit? We all understand what you meant, right? We all understand what you meant. So
yeah, I don't even fully need to justify that. I do want to say though that in relation to I said something maybe last week when something similar came up in relation to African spirituality. Because the thing is, like the problem with these conversations, I should say the problem is, it's always the same caricature. So nothing that I've heard today is anything new in relation to these things. You see what I'm saying? So like, yeah. So you know, these are old arguments that are consistently recycled. Yeah.
It's like saying, oh, because Lee happened. Oh, sorry.
One second, right? So in the Ifra, now I've already said that sacred wisdom is preserved in parables, yeah, and narratives, and these parables inform how human society is organized, socialized, and how individuals behave. Yeah. So in the narratives that are in the Ifra tradition, you have narratives, yeah, associated with different with all of the Orisha, and all of the narratives are lessons for humanity. Okay, and the narrative associated with Abatala, yeah. Now, bearing in mind that Abatala is an Orisha, and the devotees of Abatala, they don't drink, yeah, any alcohol. Okay, as a rule, as a part of their priesthood, and the narrative that informs that particular rule for the devotees of Abatala is the fact that Abatala, first of all, is meant to represent ritual purity, yeah, and divine law. Abatala is the divinity that shaped that Eledumade gave the responsibility of molding the forms, yeah, of creation and humanity in particular. And it is said that whilst Abatala was forming our bodies at one occasion, he was drinking, yeah, and he was drinking the palm wine, and he drank too much of the palm wine, and as a result, it affected his craft, and so he formed beings with physical disabilities and deformities, yeah, including all forms of deformities, including albinism. Okay, and so
what's albinism?
Being an albino.
albinoism.
Yes, right. And so as a result of that, he was disallowed from engaging in palm wine again, and he took on all of the people that experience physical deformities or are born with physical deformities as his own children. Yeah. And so people with disabilities within the Ifa tradition are protected by Obatala, and because they're protected by Obatala, people are not allowed to relate to them in ways that are harmful. Do you know what I'm saying? Because you're contravening, you're doing that against Obatala's children. That's how that is characterized and given an expression in the Ifa tradition.
Okay.